then we want to set the health. Okay, I'll set the health. If it is true, then we'll set the health, and this will be, and we'll be adding that to this negative value so that it starts depleting the health as well. Okay, so now that we have this, I'll move this a little bit to the right so that I can get some room here. Okay, so I want to take the armor value. Okay, and I want to take the armor value and I want to add that with my current health value. So if the armor value is 0.5 and the health is 1, then 0.5 minus 0.5 plus 1 would be 0.5. So that's how we'll be taking away part of the health. Okay, and 5% is where it is coming in from the for the armor. Okay, so that exact percentage, once it's below 0, it's going to be applying to the health as well. So that's how we're going to take away some damage from the health, right? And once we are done after taking some damage from the armor and the health, not the armor but the health, then we want to set this armor back to the original value. That would be 0, like that. So we want to set this armor back to 0, and when it starts regenerating, then it will do its job. But right now we have finished our task of uh, depleting our armor and taking away 5% of that, and then checking whether it's below 0. And if it is so, then we gonna take away health. Otherwise, all it's gonna do is take away the armor. And once it goes below 0, then it's time for the health bar to also decrease, because once the armor turns to 0, which means it should affect the player's health naturally. The armor is there to protect the player, so every time the armor takes a hit, it's gonna keep on depleting. And once it goes below 0, which means that the player is vulnerable, so every single hit is gonna get registered on the player, and the health is gonna go down as well, other than the armor. So we're using the armor to deplete in negative values, and we're using that negative value to add that with health, and then we're resetting the health to whatever the new value is after the addition with the armor. And then we are resetting the armor to 0 because it's already below 0, so we're not doing anything more than that. Okay, so now that we have that covered, and of course when you hit compile, you should not have any errors, so that worked fine. Now this take damage function is not going to do anything right now because no one is calling this function to do anything. So what we have to do now is, I think I'll first change this to on success only, because I don't want to compile and save both, right? And I'll just compile it, also save it. So what I want to do now is I want to create a volume. Okay, a volume where when the player enters, it's going to start taking the armor and the health away. Armor first, and then when it goes below 0, then the health. So I will right click and I'm going to create a new folder. I'll keep this a little organized. Blueprints, this is our own blueprints, the one that we'll be creating now, and this is already something that we already have. All right, so this is going to be a blueprint outside. So I'll right click and I'll go for a blueprint class, and I'll go for a very simple actor, and I'll simply call this let's say pane volume. All right, and open that up, and I'll add a box collision right away, and I don't need to rename that. I'll just keep it box, and when I hit compile, save, when I drag and drop it here inside the level, and you can see that it's quite small. Right now, of course, I'll go back to the pane volume, and I'll have to increase the extents, or I can either use the box extent out here, or I can simply scale it up in either axis that I like. So if I say this is the x or the z axis, so if I say I want this to be a little taller, and I'll say 64. Okay, that's 64, and which is fine. And then I'll say I also want it a little wider, so I'll say 64 and 64. That's good enough. When I hit compile and go back there, I should be able to see that out there, right? Which is fine. Now maybe a little bit more, I guess, and I think I'll increase it on the y as well. Sorry, x. I'll say 64 by 64 by 64. That's the pane volume. Maybe I'll increase the height a little bit by 1 to 8. Okay, and if I hit compile, go back there, and I can see the pane volume in all its glory. Now I'll just move it up a little bit. I think it's a little too tall and not as wide. I think I should also do that in the x, the y. So I'll also make this 128. don't need to make it this tall, so I can just make it 100. Yeah, that's good enough. That's also the height of the character. Yeah, that should be okay. And there you go. And if I just hit end, it'll snap to the ground. That'll be snap to the pivot. So I don't want that. I want this to be above a little bit, so that when the player enters, it will be notified. The engine will be notified. So that's the bottom part of the stairs. So when the player enters and walks through the stairs, and if he stays there, if he stays here like this, then the first two stairs, then he is gonna feel. I mean, the trigger is gonna. It's gonna get triggered. And in fact, I'll increase it further in the x-axis. I'll make this 100 as well. All right. So now that makes it a proper box where the player can be trapped inside. And maybe I'll just increase it like this. Okay, so that two stairs and a part of a portion of the area outside these two stairs, right? That should be good enough for the player. And maybe I'll just go here and I'll say not hidden in game. So I don't know if it's sometimes it's buggy. Even when you uncheck this, you can still see it, or you cannot see it in the game at times. And I hit play, and there I can see it. And so now when I walk into this, I want the health to be I want the health to take a hit. I want the armor to take a hit, right? And which is fine. There you go. And I should be able to test this quite easily. Great. I'm going to hit escape, and I will get back to the event graph of this. When should it be triggered? It should be triggered when it should be triggered when a player enters. So we can use this, or we can use some other function. Let's see. Okay, so we'll use this function for checking whether the actor, or any of the actor that we want, our kind of actor, we can choose whatever we want. You can probably throw a box and it can detect that, but it again depends on what you want. But for us, we want the character to be going inside, and this guy and this trigger to recognize the character and start taking damage from the character, start giving damage to the character rather. So out here, the other character, I'll first cast this to third person character, that is our character. Okay, once it's cast, I can actually access the functions that are inside the third person character blueprint, and the function is called take damage 5%. So if I look for that, take damage 5%, I can find it there. And now if I see that, and if I compile that, save that, what I'll do now is I'll go over to the HUD, not the HUD, I'll go over to the first person, click on health and make it 1, click on armor and also make this 100%. That's 1 and 1 each. Okay, and now when I hit compile, I should be able to see when I save this and play this, I should be able to see that nothing is going wrong here. Okay, when I go in, and you can see that it takes away it takes that 5% away from me, right? So again, if I go in, it takes that and it comes back and it does all of that. Now what I want to do is, while it's inside, I want this to be constantly depleting. Okay,